The minute I walked into my office, I felt what we then came to find out was a plane hit the building. If you've ever worked in the World Trade Center, you know that any tower that big has a soft sway to it. On a really stormy day, the door to my office would move back and forth slowly. That was not this kind of sway. What this was a jerk to one side and then a snap back very quickly. All the ceiling tiles started to fall down. You started to see things slide off your desk. You were almost thrown to your feet by the power of it. And then you started to see things falling off the side of the building. Having been there also in 1993 in the bombing, it did not take me long to figure out that we needed to get out of the building. There were no announcements, no strobe lights, no emergency announcements of any kind to tell you that. You just knew. As I walked by the elevators, I saw that the elevator doors had been blown open and there was smoke. And so I told everyone, and as we assembled to a central point, that we needed to leave and we needed to leave quickly. And as we opened the door to the stairway, there were a sea of people in front of me, as far down as I could see and as far up as I could see, just people packed on the stairway. The great thing was that none of us knew we were in trouble. We all thought perhaps a commuter plane had hit the building. We thought that there was a tragic accident because there were no clouds in the sky that day. The sky was this color blue, and it was absolutely pristine, so it had to be an accident. So going down the stairs, which took about an hour to get to the bottom, was actually almost blissful because we didn't know what was going on. Sometime during that time, the second tower was hit. You could not feel it. You did not know what was happening. Your cell phones didn't work. Your pagers didn't work. There was no communication with the outside world. About the 28th floor was when I saw the best sight I could possibly see, and that was a New York City fireman, because I knew if he could get up, I could get out. And that was the first time I thought I was going to be okay. When you got to the plaza area, which usually was reserved for, it was a fountain with some beautiful flower plantings and some benches. You would have lunch there, you would listen to music. That's when I knew I was in trouble. The plaza was littered with the wreckage of planes. It was, there were fires, there were human remains scattered everywhere. And as you tried to go out that door, people were stopping you and telling you you needed to go under the building into the lobby area because there were people jumping into the plaza as you were standing there. You have to wonder what kind of a decision they were faced with making when that was a good decision. I came out by the Millennium Hotel, thought about having a drink, but passed. Kept walking and was about 2 blocks away from the building when I started to feel a rumble under my feet. I turned around and I started to see the towers collapse and a huge gray cloud coming at me. And I remember thinking, I can't believe I made it out of the building and now it's going to fall on me. We tried to run into buildings, but the doors were locked. We couldn't get in. And so we did the next best thing. We held hands, we turned our backs, and we closed our eyes and we waited. We were completely engulfed in the cloud. It took about 20 minutes, I think, for us to be able to actually see clearly enough. It went completely dark that day at that time. Your body does funny things to try and cope with what's going on. So at that time, as everyone around me says that they heard people screaming and running, I didn't hear or see any of that. I could have been standing at midnight in the middle of a snowstorm. I heard absolute silence, absolutely nothing. I made my way home that evening. I got home at 8 o'clock that night. My husband got home just an hour before me. My family was there, my dad, my brother, my sister-in-law, and my 3 children. My 3 children were 9, 7, and 5. They were thankfully all in the same school. The next day I woke up, and I woke up to a bed that was covered with little kid bodies, all piled up on top of me and my husband. Somewhere during the night, they had all crawled down, and they had all crawled into bed. We had everybody except the dog with us. And that's only because there wasn't enough room. I will tell you that for the 3 kids, getting out of the building I thought would be the hard part. That was the easy part. The 3 kids and what they went through was a harder thing to deal with for me. My 9-year-old heard in the cafeteria that the Twin Towers collapsed, so he turned to his friend Eric, who was also 9, and said, I think both my parents are dead. And then he waited all afternoon for someone to pick him up. And when it was my brother and my father, then he said he knew we were dead. My daughter was 7 years old, and she said nothing for 2.5 months. And at the end of that period, she said, I have a couple of questions. Do we have time? And we said, sure. And for 2 hours, she asked questions and asked some really tough ones. Some of the easy ones were, can you show me pictures of the hijackers? Can you tell me if you lost good friends? Some of the harder ones were, why would someone jump out of a building if they knew they were going to die? What happens to us if you and Daddy die? Who do we go with? Who do we live with? Will we be separated? Will we be together? Will we be on the East Coast or the West Coast? All really tough questions. And my 5-year-old would spend Saturday afternoon or Sunday afternoon brunch, and he would take fruit and he would build 2 replicas of the Trade Center, and then he'd take a Blueberry airplane and he'd knock them down and ask me if that's what happened. I lost 84 colleagues that day, 7 really good friends, right? I work with Tribute because this is a way to honor the people I lost. In November, I will return to 4 World Trade Center, which you can see right over here with all of our Port Authority colleagues. My kids are not happy about that. I'm on the 23rd floor, which arguably I might be able to get a long enough rope to be able to get out if I need to. But nonetheless, it represents a challenge. I've been fortunate enough with World Trade Center Tribute to participate in a program for school children that helps teachers instruct about 9/11 because it's not just us who remember where we were, it's our children as well, and our children's children who need to remember what happened that day. Thank you.